Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Driving Perilously, show in which we turn the camera and talk about what is going on. What is going on is I am thinking these days about a particular example that's used in apologetics, which is when you're trying to defend a belief. And I'm sure there are apologetics for everything, but the one that I'm familiar with is the apologetics for Christians, to explain to people why Christianity is true. And they like to use examples that aren't in the Bible because the person you're talking to doesn't believe in the Bible yet, because they're not a Christian yet. So one of the examples that is used a lot of times for creation is the fact that if you find something intricate, you know that it was made by a person. So one example is if you find a watch or a clock, let's say you find a watch and you don't have any evidence for where it came from. It's in an empty field. But without knowing anything besides what's in front of you, a watch, you know that there was a watchmaker. You can assume that somebody bought the watch at a store. You can assume that somebody had the watch with them when they were in the area. You can assume that they dropped it. You can assume that they, it was owned by somebody, bought by somebody, made by somebody, but you know it was made by somebody, right? Like, it's possible that it could have been flying overhead in a plane and it dropped out of the plane, and so it was on its way to a store and it never been bought. You'd assume somebody probably bought the watch and lost the watch. But that might not be true. But you know that somebody made the watch. You know that the springs and the cogs and the hands and the case didn't assemble themselves. You know that the watch was made. So the one I like to think about is a cake. So if you come across a cake, you know that somebody took the flour and the sugar and the butter and the eggs and mixed them together and heated it up and made a cake. You come across a cake, you don't know who made the cake, but you know that the cake was made by a person. You know that just because you see the cake. So there are people who don't believe the world was made. But if they come across the cake, they know the cake is made. But they believe that the field that grew the wheat, nobody made that. And the metal in the ground that was sourced or mined and melted and smelted and turned into the spoon, and the tree that was carved into the bowl, those things just came out by themselves. The cake can't make itself, right? But the field and the sky and the factory and the people that, every single thing that you see can assemble itself. The cake can't, the watch can't, but the table upon which the cake or watch sit, that assembled itself. It's just, there are things that we know that we just won't admit. And this world is so much more complex than a watch or a cake. In fact, this world contains many watches and cakes, and many things more complex than watches and cakes. So yes, it had a maker. I'm sorry you don't want to say it's the same maker I say it is, but you know it had a maker. I mean, just because the TV show you watched was, light piercing the darkness and the music was mysterious and somebody with a British accent told you that life started in a drop of water or life started in a burst of light or whatever they said to you, I'm sorry. You know that the world has a maker. So that's what I've been thinking about. So that's today's edition of Driving Perilously, and I hope everyone is having a great day.